What happens when the pain that you carry, the struggle that you carry and focus on becomes part of who you think you are? So if you thought about it, many people, they actually attach their identity, who they are, to pain. So during this audio, we'll look at why that happens and how you can begin to let go without losing yourself and sticking to who you really are underneath all that. My name is Alex Morgan, and I help you align your actions, your beliefs, your dreams, and your thinking so that you can create success. And success is here, and you might as well be ready for it. One of the easiest ways to be ready for it is to get rid of some of that pain and be motivated by something else. So a lot of times when challenges happen, a trauma happens, someone has a role in their life, or even an emotional state, some people, they experience this so much that it kind of becomes a part of how they see themselves. Now, I'm not saying this happens all the time or to everyone, so just take everything I say here to kind of open up your awareness to yourself or other people or anything like that. So maybe someone says that, oh, I have anxiety, or I'm the survivor, or I'm the one who fixes everything. I'm the black sheep. I'm the weird one. I'm sure you've heard people say things like this before. So people take their experiences of their reality and how they see themselves and others, and then they unconsciously start to build an identity around what happens, around the pain, around the emotions, to make sense of the experience or find kind of how they belong, how they fit in. It's funny because I was talking to a friend the other day, and what he told me was really interesting. We were talking about, well, who are you? What do you do? All these things. And I said, well, I'm not so big to, talk about my career and all these things. So I wouldn't just say, hey, I'm Alex. I'm a hypnotist. If someone specifically asks what I do for work, okay, I'll tell them. Usually it's a pretty interesting topic of conversation. And I said, but I don't want to just talk about that. I definitely want to talk about other things. And I said, what about you? They said, well, I would share my name and tell them I'm in it and I experience life. And I thought, interesting. So you are who you are and you experience life because that's what it's really all about anyway. So for most people, pain, it becomes familiar. And familiarity and predictability, this starts to feel safe. So oftentimes people hold on to this struggle, this identity, because it feels safe. So there's some people with chronic pain. Maybe you know someone with chronic pain. And if you think about it, do they have chronic pain? Of course they do. It's their reality. So we're not going to argue whether or not they have chronic pain. However, if someone's had chronic pain for many, many years, they've remembered just about every single day. I can't say for sure they've felt it every single day. They've remembered to run this strategy of chronic pain in their mind every single day. A lot of people, they have a fear that they'll be someone else without the narrative they've repeated for years. Have you ever met someone who has a total victim mindset and they're afraid to do anything else? It's almost like they think people are out to get them when no one is. People are actually trying to help them more than others because maybe they even feel some sympathy for them. Maybe they feel compassion. They feel bad for them almost. So you can actually be a much better person without holding on to this identity around this pain. Now, struggle, it can bring connection. It can bring meaning, attention, and even a sense of purpose. So just because other things are unknown, yes, this can feel more threatening than the known suffering. However, what if you actually motivated yourself with doing something good and feeling something different instead? Because the cost of keeping pain, there's quite a few of them. It limits your growth, your expansion, and who you really are because your authentic self, that's what people want to see. Authenticity is a really high vibrational thing to be around when people are authentic. Have you ever been around someone authentic? And you just say, wow, this person I was so glad I was around them. I can see that they're so authentic, they're so genuine, I'm so curious, I'm so excited to know more about this person. So if you're not letting go of that identity around pain, you may be missing out on who you really are. And this can also reinforce a habit of self-sabotage, burnout, and staying small, thinking small. The more you keep that identity, you're thinking in that identity. Your neurology isn't necessarily growing. You're thinking in that same way. And what if you could do something else instead? What if you could feel something else instead? So think about it. If you let this go, what will you gain? What will happen if you let it go? What won't happen if you let it go? Interesting questions. What will happen if you don't let it go? And what won't happen if you don't let it go? Answer those 4 questions. If you need to rewind it, do it again, because those are really important questions. Those will show you the different consequences of keeping pain as who you are or letting it go. So you need to notice the stories you tell yourself and the stories you even tell other people. If you're saying things like, I always, or everyone thinks this about me, or I'm to this, or I'm to that, you need to reframe your thinking. I'm to this, I'm to that. Compared to what? Compared to who? How specifically are you like this? And this will help you recover lost details, lost information that you deleted unconsciously, because you deleted unconsciously all the other wonderful things about yourself. If you just say, I'm too lazy, I'm too shy, I'm too this, compared to what? How specifically are you like this? Are there actual examples that show you're like this? Probably not. And then you can ask yourself, just suppose you did something different. Even if you pretended, you imagined it, what would happen instead? So notice the self-talk that you have. Notice the stories you tell yourself. And when you notice this language, I'm to this, I'm to that, or I always, or everyone thinks this, everyone actually thinks this about you? Always people are thinking this about you? Probably not. This is something that you're creating in your mind. So acknowledge this and move on without any judgment. Think about, who are you? Who's the authentic self? Who's the person in there that you want to become? Get really curious about this. This is what I always tell my students. The first day I started a training last week, and I said to them, I said, take all this information and just get really, really curious, more curious about yourself and other people, and have a willingness to experiment. And this will show you who you truly are, not just who you've been, who you truly are and who you want to become. And you could build a new identity, a new person who wants success, not because you're in survival mode, but because you have values. So ask yourself, what's important to you about whatever it is that you want to achieve? So think about something that you want to do instead of feeling the same way that you felt for so long, holding on to that pain, and ask yourself, what's important to you about personal growth? What's important to you about relationships? And focus on one sector and write down the answers. And this will show you the things that actually do motivate you. And a lot of these things are unconscious, so that's why it's important to ask this question, and you can ask it 3, 4, 5, 6 times to get more and more values out of there. And then notice what values are most important. Put them in order, about 5 or 6 of them, 4 to 6 of them. And then you'll have that motivation. You'll be motivated by something else. Because most of the time when people are motivated by pain, they need to replace it and be motivated by something else. So that's how you can really shift who you are and be your authentic self, and not have to think that you're pain, you're that struggle. So definitely share this with someone who will benefit. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the audio and subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate everyone who's been subscribing lately. It helps me create content every single day. Go ahead and comment below. What's something that you want to do instead? Who do you truly want to become? And notice what you focus on. Is it a career, or is it more like, I just want to experience life, like I mentioned earlier. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you on the next video or the next audio.